On today's episode, we're going to find out why the Arizona Diamondbacks have not done anything. We're also going to find out why Jesse Friedman hasn't gone down that slide in Dallas yet. All of that in 30 seconds. Don't you go anywhere. Welcome in to another edition of the PHNX Dbacks podcast right here in Studio K at PHNX HQ. My name is Garrett Crochet. Of course, I am occasionally known as your mayor of the Waffle House, I guess now. That's my new title. But we are joined shortly here by the one and only Thunderstick Jesse Friedman to talk about the moves the Diamondbacks did not make at the winter meetings. And luckily, we have Jesse to tell us why there is no need to panic. Speaking of which, let's bring him in, the one and only Thunderstick himself, Jesse. I'm guessing, I'm starting to figure it out, Jesse, and I'm guessing that the snow slide, which would be a main attraction of people wanting to come visit this hotel, probably not an advantageous time to have it open during the winter meetings when you have all these executives from Major League Baseball in the same place.
You know, were this a plumbing convention, Derek, were it a gathering of engineers, you could trust that people would have the maturity not to go down the slide, right? Like you wouldn't expect in that case a bunch of middle-aged men, women taking that course of action. However, here at the winter meetings, they simply do not have that trust in the fine media folk and executives and scouts and whatnot across Major League Baseball. We simply would not be able to control ourselves, and therefore, for our sake, they had to block it off for the betterment of all of us, Derek.
You're not keeping Scott Boras off that thing, right? You're not keeping Rob Manfred from wasting a lot of his day. I mean, he's an important man. His time is precious, but there's no way you're keeping him off going up and down that slide a few times. But it's kind of how a lot of Diamondbacks fans feel right now, Jesse, because a lot of Diamondbacks fans feel like they're a bit disappointed, like they have been, they have a slide that they want to slide on that they're not allowing them to get on and play with, because we are watching all of these huge deals go down around Major League Baseball, and the Diamondbacks have yet to make a move.
They have yet to make a move. And last season at this time, you could sort of make the case that the Dbacks didn't do anything, but no one else in the league really did anything either, right? But that's not really the case this season. There actually has been quite a bit of action here across the league over the last few days. Nothing too crazy, but there were some significant moves that went down today, right? Garrett Crochet traded from the White Sox to the Boston Red Sox in an enormous deal, an enormous return for the White Sox in that one. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. Obviously, the Max Fried deal going down, Nathan Eovaldi signing last night, some other trades that have trickled in here over the last 24 hours. So, the Diamondbacks have not done anything, and they're certainly not alone in that, but there are other teams that have done significantly more than the Diamondbacks at this stage.
What did Mike Hazen, I know you had a chance to speak with him before he wrapped things up there today at the final day of the winter meetings. What did Mike have to say about, I guess, the lack of moves on this organization's part?
Similar to kind of what we talked about yesterday, where there certainly aren't any concerns on the Diamondback side. And you can understand why. Again, it's very, very early in the offseason. But rather than having me say it, you can hear it from the man himself. Here's Mike talking about that, as well as a couple of follow-up questions that we asked as well.
A lot of meetings. Didn't really get much done, but there's been progress made, I think, on some conversations in some areas. So we'll see what happens. Wasn't really necessarily expecting anything to happen here. We'll carry all these conversations forward.
Do you feel any differently about anything?
Yes, I do. I feel like we have a little firmer understanding on some potential moves that we can make. It's not anything happening right now, but I do feel like that things have progressed a little bit in terms of specificity and conversation.
Do you feel like, is there an example of like more likely to have to fill this hole with this? More likely
No. There's free agent situations and trade situations that are both out there for all the areas that we're looking at. So trying to put what combinations kind of go together in different ways is part of what we're discussing right now.
I know the timing is not really a huge concern at this point. Are there certain moves that maybe you would like to make sooner than
Yeah,
later?
of course, because
Kind
you
of
start
painful,
losing
right?
options on them, but I don't know exactly what those are right now. But yes, there are definitely going to be some that you're going to lose off the table when other moves start getting made.
Well, Jesse, what does this mean? I mean, I guess one of the things I think here is Jock Peterson and Christian Walker still haven't signed somewhere else. And the Diamondbacks do want to bring back, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sure they would essentially love to bring both of those guys back, but they do want to bring one of those two individuals back. When it comes to the lack of moves, is it the fact that the Diamondbacks, I guess, first options really haven't signed somewhere else yet, so they haven't really had to move on yet?
Exactly. Yeah, we touched on this a little bit yesterday. It would be one thing if the players the Diamondbacks were really going to be in on, or potentially were going to be in on, were coming off the market, but that's not what's happened, right? Even the moves that went down today, like I don't think the Diamondbacks were going to trade for Garrett Crochet, right? Like
Right.
these are still moves that we would not have really expected the Diamondbacks to be involved in. So yeah, it's a little bit boring, but I kind of give the same answer as I did last night, where that the part of the market that this team is going to be engaged in just hasn't really moved at this stage. At the same time, I will say I think it could move fairly quickly at this point. Juan Soto has signed. That's sort of the big one that everyone was waiting for. And we have gotten some rumors here in the last 24, 48 hours, specifically Christian Walker. Some teams that missed out on Soto that are sort of pivoting. The New York Yankees certainly being one of them, among some other teams as well. I think action is going to start picking up here soon. So maybe it isn't all that long from now that we do have the Diamondbacks getting involved in something.
Christian Walker was trending on Twitter yesterday, Jesse, and the reason for it was an argument amongst Yankees fans about his relevance and if the Yankees should give him a 3-year contract. It sounds like they are getting close to potentially reaching a deal with Christian Walker on a 3-year contract, and some Yankees fans were very much against it. And then other Yankees fans were quote tweeting the first group of Yankees fans, telling them that they didn't know ball and putting a lot of Christian Walker's information out there on Twitter. I didn't like this, Jesse. There was far too much Christian Walker praise going on amongst like a national baseball audience that I was not keen to. It was too much talking about how good our guy is. And of course, it does feel inevitable that news of him leaving is going to come here soon.
I was talking with someone today about Christian Walker who lives on the East Coast. And the point that he brought up is like people on the East Coast don't really know about Christian Walker, right? I mean,
right.
Diamondbacks games in New York start at 9:40 p.m. for the most part every night. Like how many New Yorkers are staying up to watch, a Diamondbacks Rockies game at like until 1 a.m, right? So I think there's a lot of people on the East Coast who don't really understand Christian Walker's game. And it's not to say that like his surface level numbers are bad. Like even if you didn't know about Walker's defense, he's still a pretty good player. Like just offensively, he does bring a lot of value. But it really is the fact that he's the best first baseman in the sport that drives home, why you're talking about 3 years and potentially over $70 million for a guy who's getting up there in age a little bit, right at age 34.
Yeah, well, Jesse, I know that Diamondbacks have their concerns with what they're going to do with Christian Walker. They also have, I guess, a trending, positive topic here in their surplus of starting pitchers that other teams are contacting them about, interested in. I once again will implore you to check out this slightly used Jordan Montgomery we have for sale if anybody is interested out there. But I mean, another thing we have talked about is that the Diamondbacks really don't need to trade any of their starting pitching. They don't really need to do much when it comes to starting pitching. If these guys all performed in a way that we know that they are capable of, that their track record has shown that they're able to perform at, this is a outstanding starting rotation, and the Diamondbacks really don't need to make any changes.
Yeah, that's something that Hazen was asked about in our brief conversation with him today. Like, what obviously we sort of know that Hazen feels fairly confident with this starting pitching group going into next year. Otherwise, they're probably not looking at trading away pieces from it, which is something that very well could happen at some point this offseason. But yeah, Hazen was asked about, what is it? Why do you look at some of the really rough numbers from 2024 and you're still confident in this group? And here is what he had to say.
The raw talent of the players that we have in our rotation is what fuels my confidence that there's going to be a rebound. I think we have guys competing for Cy Youngs that are in our rotation, that are in the prime of their career. That's what fuels my confidence.
I mean, I don't. Do you disagree?
No, I don't think so. I think that is ultimately what you're betting on, right? Like the track record for Zach Gallen, the track record for Merrill Kelly, Eduardo Rodriguez is included in that group as well, and Jordan Montgomery. I think you could put him in there as well, right? Hazen's talking about how these guys have been competing for Cy Young awards. I'm not sure I would necessarily say Eduardo Rodriguez has ever been in the thick of a Cy Young race, but his track record is still strong, right? The Diamondbacks, when they signed that deal, they figured that they were getting someone who had, maybe the ceiling wasn't super high, but you felt pretty good about the floor, that you were just going to get a steady presence who could help log some innings for you. So yeah, I see where Mike is coming from there, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go that way, but I think that any objective observer is going to look at the track record of these guys and naturally believe like this group has to be better in 2025.
Well, when it comes to the Diamondbacks getting better themselves via trade, that kind of leaves their surplus of outfielders, I guess, as the next viable option as to who they could trade. We know that the main focus there has been Jake McCarthy or Alek Thomas as a potential trade target. Have you really heard anything about either one of these guys? Have either of their names come up?
We asked yesterday about Alek versus Jake and sort of how other teams are perceiving these guys, which is a really big part of the equation, right? It's one thing to like one more than the other, really want to keep one guy and maybe be more willing to deal the other guy. But what really matters is how are other teams valuing them? That's what's going to determine the prices that you're ultimately able to get. And what Hazen said there was pretty interesting. He told us yesterday that a lot of teams are just asking for them in kind of an either or situation. So we're interested in both of these guys, and we would sort of take either one. And he said that some teams do have one guy over the other, but he said there are just as many people who have Jake McCarthy over Alek Thomas as who have Alek Thomas over Jake McCarthy, which is not necessarily what you'd expect, right? One of these guys just had a pretty great season, Jake McCarthy, an OPS of 749, an on-base percentage of right around 350, whereas Alek Thomas, hardly actually played, and his numbers were not pretty. His OPS was right around 600. Obviously, he missed so much time with the hamstring injuries as well. So, yeah, the two guys are kind of difficult to evaluate. I think we knew that coming in. But just hearing that, teams still appear to believe in Alek Thomas despite the season that he just had.
Well, I know we have 6 starting pitchers, Jesse, but I think the Diamondbacks missed an opportunity to trade one Alek Thomas to the White Sox for Garrett Crochet. We know they would have done that deal just straight up player swap because we know how highly they covet one Alek Thomas. Missed opportunity, but now we have old Garrett Crochet there swapping socks. Trading his white ones in for red ones as he goes to Boston. White Sox, meanwhile, get an absolute haul in return, Jesse, for Garrett Crochet. We talked yesterday about apparently, the market being more about, players that are major league ready rather than being prospects. But I don't think the White Sox are there yet, right? The White Sox are a great organization to make a trade like this for them to be focusing more on their future rather than focusing on the now for that team. But they get catcher Kyle Teal, which is the number 25 overall prospect. We got outfielder Braden Montgomery coming back, number 54 overall. We have Chase, infielder Chase Meadroth, and then he's a Boston's number 11 prospect. And then Wilkeman Gonzalez, which is Boston's number 14 prospect. So the Red Sox trade the number 25 overall prospect in all of baseball and a number 54 overall prospect in all of baseball to the White Sox. And again, really, it's hard to not think of this as being a really good deal on the White Sox behalf. You know, I mean, I know they've been shopping Crochet around for a while, and they finally get the haul that they're looking for.
I guess you got to tip your hat to the White Sox a little bit here. Like, they really have been shopping Garrett Crochet for a while. It feels like, certainly going back to the trade deadline, that was a heavy topic of discussion around the league, and that's continued here in the offseason as well. Eventually, it just didn't make sense for the White Sox to like continue to hold on to Garrett Crochet, right? I mean, this is a team that I think it's safe to say the White Sox probably aren't going to be contenders in 2025. They go out on a limb.
Whoa, Jesse! It is way too early to be determining that about any team, right? That's a hot take.
Just watch the White Sox are totally going to go out and win like 85 games or something just because I said that. But I mean, I know we talked yesterday about how what other teams are looking for in trades, at least from the Diamondbacks perspective, has been major league ready players. Other teams are not asking about prospects. The postseason pool is so big at this point that a lot of teams feel like they have a shot and they're trying to go for it, at least right now.
Yeah.
You know, some teams are going to pivot come the trade deadline, but we're not there yet. A lot of these teams still really feel that they have a chance. The White Sox, however, are kind of in a different category, right? They're obviously in a rebuilding phase here, and this is an absolute haul. I mean, you see the rankings within the Red Sox system. I want to say Kyle Teal is ranked as the number 4 prospect in the Boston system, if I'm not mistaken. But he's also, as you said, like the 25th overall prospect in the sport. Like, that's how deep this Red Sox farm system is. It's an absolute haul, and it makes a lot of sense. The Red Sox are certainly one of the teams that had the prospect capital to pull this off.
It's also just interesting because the Red Sox are one of those teams that are desperate to make moves. We're going to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays trade that they made with the Guardians here, but it's like the area I don't want the Diamondbacks to get themselves into, right? Because from an outsider perspective, you look at a team like the Red Sox. Don't get me wrong, any team in baseball could have an amazing 2025 and surprise us all. It just doesn't look like the Red Sox are ready to compete with some of the top contending teams in baseball in 2025. Now, a lot is going to change based on the landscape and what other moves are made. The Red Sox are very active, like I said. So are the Blue Jays. These teams are trying to pull off their own Juan Soto move. We know the Red Sox were very much in the Juan Soto sweepstakes and did not get him. So they have money to spend. Plus, they have this prospect capital to spend as well. It's just like, can they do enough to make themselves a contender? And when all is said and done, is that team going to win the AL East, or are they still going to finish third? And are they still going to, are they going to have spent all this capital and done all of this for nothing, to not really end up, being able to compete? Like, I guess from a perspective of a franchise, you have to try to do everything you can, and you never know when you're going to put together that magic combination. Garrett Crochet is absolutely one of the best starting pitchers that was available. Well, I'm sure it was via trade, but still just one of the best starting pitchers that was available on the market. So they add him to a lineup that they're trying to improve right now. And I mean, 2 or 3 more moves by the Red Sox might make them into that contender. You can't, shy away from making a move like this. It just, that's what I'm saying is that's that middle ground I don't want the Diamondbacks to get themselves into in 2025, where they're I guess trading away the little prospect capital that they do have and kind of mortgaging the future in order to make this team slightly better, but still maybe compete for second or third place in the National League West. It doesn't feel like it's worth it.
That's a question that I think a lot of teams are probably wrestling with this time of year, right? Like, if you are going to push the chips in on some level, like, where realistically do you stand? Those are conversations that the teams absolutely have to have. Obviously, the Diamondbacks, they feel like they're in a good enough position to push the chips in. We talked about it the other day, where when the Diamondbacks traded Paul Goldschmidt back in 2018, when he had 1 year to go until free agency, they did it because they just didn't feel like they had the depth to withstand 162 games. That if just a couple of things went wrong, that team wasn't going to be in position to be successful. Whereas this year's team, the Diamondbacks have a better sense that they have guys to be able to step in when those injuries arise. I mean, again, this is a team that had a lot of injuries pop up throughout the 2024 season, and they didn't make the postseason, but they still won 89 games, which is pretty impressive given the volume of injuries that they dealt with. Going back to Crochet, though, I'm curious if the Red Sox extend him, if that's part of the thinking here.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we're
Feels like
giving
it has
away
to.
like some we're giving away some massive assets here for 2 years of Garrett Crochet, but yeah, I mean maybe this does turn into a 5-year deal or something like that. I know Crochet at the trade deadline was talking about wanting an extension, like a guarantee of an extension before being moved anywhere, because he's had some injury trouble in the past, and if a team was going to push him to pitch in the playoffs for a deep postseason run, he wanted that guarantee. He didn't really have the leverage to actually get something like that. But maybe now, after the Red Sox made this huge investment, maybe there'd be mutual interest in getting something like that done.
Well, we got our guy, large, intimate Kevin Thomas on the ones and twos today. And Kevin, I know that we have a very special image here of Jesse Friedman having breakfast with Tori Lavello. Is that right? Oh no, it's not. It's Jesse going down the slide again. Well, Kevin, how did that happen?
My bad.
What a mistake! No, you were.
Wait, where did? Oh, there he is. There he is.
He's having a great time. Sorry. That's not what we meant to show, Jesse. You did have breakfast though with Tori Lavello. You didn't slide on the slide. Disappointing, but not disappointing. You did have breakfast with Tori Lavello.
I did. Yeah, I don't know if we have the picture, like the obligatory like middle school feeling picture that all of the NL GMs or all the NL managers take before the breakfast begins. You can see Tori Lavello in the back row there next to Bob Belvin.
Time.
This is
just having a great time.
This is probably my favorite event of the winter meetings every year, and unfortunately, it's not the kind of event that I can really talk about on the show much, because Tori is very open and very candid and says things that are certainly not intended for to be let out to the masses. But yeah, Tori is, as people should know, if you're a fan of this team, like, yes, you can have your issues with Tori's managerial decisions and whatnot from time to time, but on a personal level, he's a lot of fun. He's very funny. He tells some great stories, and so we were able to enjoy some time with him here this morning.
I have one question, and I don't care if it's prying too much. I need to know this, Jesse. Has he put up his Christmas lights yet?
Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you there. I know that he spent a decent amount of time in Buffalo. Obviously, that's public information because people saw him on Sunday Night Football recently, decked out in Buffalo Bills gear. He does spend a good portion of time there during the off season, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly where he's at from a Christmas light standpoint. Certainly, I'd offer up your services if you needed any help in that area.
Sure. Like, I know he watches this show. I know he's a huge fan of one of the hosts, and I just wanted to put it out there, Tori, that I will once again offer my services for absolutely free to come untangle lights, help you put stuff up. I'll be a helper too, because like when you put up Christmas lights, like sometimes there needs to be like a leader, right? And you can't have two people out there trying to make up design ideas and whatever. Somebody's got to hold the lights while he's up on the ladder, do the untangling, whatever it takes. I need to bring a film crew with me to document it. That's the only caveat, but I will happily come out and help you put up your Christmas lights if that hasn't been done already, Jesse. This is just one of the many services I offer as mayor, especially around the holiday season. It's something I have to do. But we have way more to talk about, including more trades, more things that happen not concerning the Arizona Diamondbacks. So we can once again, be Squidward watching Patrick and SpongeBob have a great time out the window with all these other baseball teams right now. But don't you go anywhere. We'll be right back right here on the PHNX Dbacks Show. Of course, 2025 is right around the corner, and I've been saying it over and over again. You want to get 2025 off on a good foot, good start to the year, and a great way to do so is with some new flooring from our friends at Empire Today. You can get shop-at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a price match guarantee. They also service their own warranties, so you get the whole package from our friends at Empire Today. You also get a curated product selection, so you don't have to look through thousands of samples to find flooring that fits your needs. You let Empire Today know what you're looking for, and they will find you products that match your needs. They also have that virtual floor designer, which will allow you to see how new flooring will look in any space. All you have to do is take a picture of a room, and that flooring will come up in that neat little app. So, of course, great way for you to shop at home and have not a lot of people come into your house. Of course, you don't want that. You don't want it to take a long time. And Empire Today prides itself on the easy, quick, and convenient service that they offer that eliminates the back and forth to a store. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 discount when they use promo code PHNX. Restrictions do apply. See empiretoday.com/PHNX for details. Whatever the moment, of course, it is never ordinary at Bet365. Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide, and they help to watch live sports. They make it even more fun. They pioneered live in-game betting, and they can help you out with an early payout offer across NBA, NFL, NHL, and Major League Baseball. See for yourself with all the wonderful options. Of course, with football, you can get the early payout offer. I think if your team goes up by 17 points, you are a winner regardless of the outcome of the game. And trust me, our very own Jesse Friedman can tell you how no matter how many points you're up by, you might still lose a football game. So, of course, with that early payout offer, you're a winner regardless of what happens in the game. If your team goes up by 17, download the Bet365 app and use our code of PHNX365 when you sign up. Place a bet of $5 or more and get $150 in bonus bets. Find out whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or over and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. Well, Jesse, again, we talked about the Blue Jays a little bit earlier. They made a big splash. Their big splash of the offseason. They agree to a trade with the Guardians for Andres Jimenez, one of the best defensive infielders in all of baseball, on Tuesday. He's 26 years old. He's only 2 years into a 7-year deal worth $106.5 million. And honestly, the Blue Jays immediately get younger and better. And again, it feels like both the Red Sox and the Blue Jays see the AL East as being wide open right now, with Juan Soto's departure and the Yankees still doing their thing on trying to find, players to fill their positional needs.
I'm a little confused by the Blue Jays, I think, if I'm being totally honest.
You're not the only one.
It just feels like going back to what we were saying earlier about like kind of being realistic about where you stand. Like, where does this Blue Jays team stand in that AL East right now? I certainly don't think it's impossible they could bounce back. They do have some big pieces for sure, but I'm not sure that Andres Jimenez is necessarily moving the needle for them a ton. I will say that Andres Jimenez is one of the most underrated players in the game. As you mentioned earlier, his defense at second base is outstanding.
Yeah.
I'm looking at his baseball reference page, and he had a 638 OPS in 2024. And was also a 4-WAR player on Baseball Reference, which is like close to an all-star caliber player who had a 638 OPS, right? Like, that's how good he is defensively at second base. So I do think that Jimenez is a really nice player. I'm just not sure, unless the Blue Jays are able to land like a big name at some point, it's going to be hard for me to really buy into them as legitimate factors in that very competitive AL East.
Well, you're there in Dallas, Jesse, and the Rangers have remained very active after having a disappointing season on the back of winning the World Series. They are trying to get better. They trade for Jake Berger, which is a very interesting move and could have an impact here on the Arizona Diamondbacks. We'll get to that here shortly, but the Rangers get Jake Berger. Meanwhile, the Marlins get 3 players They get Eshedri Vargas, they get Max Acosta, and they get Brayan Mendoza. Mendoza's a left-handed pitcher, shortstop Max Acosta, and then an infielder, second baseman / shortstop, and Vargas. And Jesse, I mean, first of all, Jake Burger, great player, could have been a great option for the Diamondbacks potentially at first base, but it feels like a trade that we've already talked about potentially happening for the Dbacks just got a little bit more likely in Nathaniel Lowe from the Rangers now being available with Jake Burger coming over from the Marlins.
That's the big question here from the D-backs perspective, no doubt. Yeah, I don't know if necessarily the Rangers are going to be looking to move Nathaniel Lowe. I think it is possible that they could get everyone at least some playing time. But I was talking with Jeff Wilson, who covers the Rangers, does a great job for our sister company here at DLLS. And yeah, he seems to sort of be leaning in that direction. Like it would at least make sense for the Rangers to consider moving Lowe on the heels of this move. And certainly, we haven't had any kind of reporting at this point that the Diamondbacks are interested in Lowe, but it's not rocket science that it makes some sense for them, right? Lowe has 2 years of club control. If we bring up his stats for the 2024 season, they're pretty good. They're not going to jump off the page as we discussed way back when we talked about Lowe as a potential trade target. 265, 361, 401 slash line, 16 home runs. But you see the WAR number there at the bottom of your screen of 2.8. Like that's pretty good. I mean, that's basically replacing Christian Walker, at least from a wins above replacement standpoint. Even if Lowe goes about it a little bit differently, he's a guy who gets on base a ton. Doesn't necessarily hit for the power that you're used to seeing from a first baseman, but he's a good defender, and he really could be a fit for this Diamondbacks team. And certainly love the fact that he has 2 years of club control remaining, as opposed to just one with some of the other guys on the market.
Jerry Torres in our chat says Burger to play DH and back up Lowe. That would make a little bit of sense just based on the fact that Burger does have had great numbers. If you look at his Baseball Savant page in 2024, put up some amazing numbers offensively. Chase rate, whiff rate, striking out, that stuff not great. Didn't walk a lot. However, not really great defensively. He had -6 outs above average. His arm strength is in the 48th percentile, so mid is about mid as you could come. And again, just not great there when it comes to his defense. So again, a good potential, I guess, combination there for what they could be doing, and you could be right about that. But I do think, I agree with what Jesse is bringing up here. I think Nathaniel Lowe, even though the Diamondbacks haven't really been tied to him necessarily, it makes
never really been tied to anyone at this point, right? Like in terms of first base targets, I guess there was the Cody Bellinger report. But outside of that, we haven't gotten any reports
tied them
at all.
To plenty of people. We did that. We do that.
I tied is doing a lot of work in that sentence.
Yeah,
that
for sure.
I'm not sure
for
it
sure.
should necessarily be doing. But
we
we've discussed a lot of
dots
options
around here, Jesse. We call it connecting the dots and making a picture. And sometimes that's what you got to do here. We've also said
I do wonder, sorry, just real quick on the Nathaniel Lowe topic. I do wonder what would be in it for the Rangers in a sense. Yes, they have the ability to move him. I think if they want, they now have the depth to step in and take that spot. But at the same time, I'm not sure the Diamondbacks are a great fit for them trade-wise. I think the Rangers probably want they're looking to replenish their bullpen, certainly. That's one of the biggest needs they have. I don't think the D-backs are going to trade Justin Martinez or something for Nathaniel Lowe. So maybe there's a way to make it work in some other way, but I don't really see a super obvious match on paper. I guess if the Rangers wanted a starting pitcher, if the Rangers wanted an outfielder, I think there's maybe a universe where that could make sense, but it's a little bit harder to fit the pieces together for me.
Riley in the chat, Jesse, has a question for you. He says, where does this put the Rangers on Jock Peterson now? We did hear some rumors attaching the Rangers to Jock. We also know, I think, the Cincinnati Reds were kind of interested in maybe bringing Jock over. Does Burger kind of essentially make Jock Peterson unnecessary for the Rangers?
That's a good question. I mean, I guess if they're not gonna sign Jock Peterson, then maybe you do want Nathaniel Lowe to stay on your roster. So again, I wouldn't say that it's like a guarantee that this move was made because they're planning to deal Nathaniel Lowe. They might have decided like, yeah, we're maybe not gonna trade, we're not gonna sign Jock Peterson. We want to add this additional bat into the lineup. So we'll have to see, if in any of the follow-up reporting here, if there's any clarity on that. But I think the Rangers could maybe be interested in a Jordan Montgomery reunion. That would be an interesting storyline. Obviously, he had a lot of success last time he was there, but I'm not so sure that Jordan Montgomery for Nathaniel Lowe. I don't know if that gets it done from the Rangers' perspective.
Can I interest you in one wait, what were we saying? What were we going to say? Pre-owned? Refurbished. Can I interest you in one refurbished Jordan Montgomery? Is that truthful? Is it honest? Would I get a knock on
There
eBay
you
for
go.
that? I'm just curious. Rickety Bridge says, "Oh no, I'm late." Don't worry, Rickety. You didn't miss anything because the Diamondbacks haven't done anything. Not to say that we've wasted people's time for 36 minutes, but I promise you, we can catch you up real fast. Dbacks haven't done anything. Tori Lavallo was very happy to be at the breakfast with Jesse.
We haven't talked about the Rule 5 draft yet, Derek.
Oh, well,
And
we
in a
got that
sense
to
there,
go.
in a sense, the non-news there is the news, right? So stay tuned. The
You're
Rule
giving it
5
all
news
away.
is
You're giving
huge.
it all away because there's nothing to talk about there anyway. But that's a perfect preview for the other side of this break. Of course, don't you guys go anywhere. We'll be talking about the results of the Rule 5 draft and I guess how nothing happens and why nothing happens and why we even do the Rule 5 draft on the other side of this break. Don't you go anywhere. You're watching the PHNX Dbacks show. Well, it is Fiesta Bowl time here in the Valley. Fiesta Bowl is coming up. As much as it would have been awesome to watch ASU do that thing here in town, they have business to take care of in the Peach Bowl. But of course, here in town, it's the new era in the Valley of the Sun. And again, it's time to merge history, tradition with innovation, pageantry, and fun in the 53rd annual VRBO Fiesta Bowl Parade presented by Lerner and Rowe. The event, once again, is free to the public and family friendly. It's a great time to get out. Don't miss the Fiesta Bowl itself. That's also a wonderful event to attend. But on December 28th, make sure to come out to Central Phoenix and watch all the colorful floats, balloons, and community groups come on through, as well as the marching bands. And of course, you get to also see Grand Marshal, ASU, and Mesa Wrestling Champion Anthony Robles come be that Grand Marshal of that parade. You can join us all in person on Saturday, December 28th at 10 a.m. Will I be in the parade? Remains to be seen. I don't know. I have somehow finagled my way into this parade in the past. So we'll see what happens. But you can either join us there on December 28th at 10 a.m. or watch it all happen live on AZ Family 3 TV. For the parade route and more information, check fiestabowl.org/parade. Also, put a bow on this holiday season over at Sanderson Ford. If you are in the market for a new vehicle, or once again, like I said, looking to give that significant other in your life one of the most amazing gifts ever, make sure to stop by Sanderson Ford and check out all the great deals that they have. Right now, you can get new 2024 F-150 trucks with a 3.9% APR financing for 66 months, plus up to $4,000 cash back. Similar savings on over 900 new and pre-owned vehicles on the lot. And we are very proud to have Sanderson Ford as our official vehicle partner. Check out everything they have to offer this holiday season, and also get yourself lunch at the Starliner Diner while you're there. If you're getting that gift for someone else, you've earned that wonderful lunch. So make sure to stop by Sanderson Ford. We're thankful for them. And of course, they're thankful for you. Without their customers, they couldn't give back and support our community with events like Operation Santa Claus. So big shout out to Sanderson Ford. All right, Jesse. Well, the Rule 5 draft has come and gone. You stayed around in Dallas for that. Nothing really happened on the Diamondbacks front. But I know a lot of people, especially with the rules of the Rule 5 draft and the stipulations that we've talked about, including leaving that player on your major league roster for the entire season the following year. I've had a lot of people wonder why the Rule 5 draft even exists, right? Like, why do we still do this? Is this something that they should do away with? And honestly, it's a policing kind of policy, right? Like, the whole purpose of the Rule 5 draft is for teams to not stash prospects that should be on a major league roster simply because they're not moving them and they don't want to give them up and they don't really want to give them the opportunity to play at a major league level, right? Like, so the Rule 5 draft itself is meant to kind of make sure that teams don't kind of have this stockpile of prospects that aren't getting an opportunity to play. However, it's like we're now in a mode where it feels like nobody really gets Rule 5 prospects that make a big impact in the game any longer, or, you know, even get guys that stay on a major league roster for an entire season to kind of become that, you know, I guess diamond in the rough that they would be considered, right? So it's an odd thing for the Rule 5 draft to still exist, but it's like it has to exist kind of out of necessity.
I think it's probably a good thing for baseball. I mean, it's very random, right? Like it's a little bit hard to understand. It's kind of the rules behind it are kind of bizarre. Like I think it's a very baseball thing, right?
Yes.
Like this is the nerds unite. Like we live for the Rule 5 draft every winter meetings, right? But yes, on the Diamondbacks front, they did not make a selection. We did not expect them to make a selection. Again, if you do make a selection in the Rule 5 draft, the only way you keep that player, or generally the way the process works is you have to keep that player on your active roster for the entire following season. And it would be hard for the Diamondbacks to pluck someone from, you know, a double A from another organization and try to keep them in the majors the entire year. They're just in a phase right now, in a window of contention where you don't really think they need to take that kind of a gamble. And I think specifically as far as the bullpen is concerned, that's where a lot of these draft picks happen. You know, you see a guy in a high A who's got like filthy stuff, but can't really throw strikes. Like, you know, bring him to the majors. The stuff is good enough, and if they can throw strikes, then it can work. And as we saw with Justin Martinez this past year, sometimes the switch sort of just flips all of a sudden, where a guy's command goes from not being viable at all to at least being good enough to you know, at least turn you into a pretty solid relief pitcher. So Diamondbacks didn't make any selections. They also did not have any players taken from their organization, which is probably the bigger point of news here. It was definitely possible that they would have guys lost in the Rule 5 draft. I think AJ Vukovic was maybe the prime candidate in my mind to be selected. 23-year-old outfielder, guy the Diamondbacks took in the 4th round back in 2020. And yeah, he was not selected in the Rule 5 draft. He remains in the Diamondback system. Christian Robinson is another name that came up here. He was not selected. Kyle Backus, left-handed reliever. All these guys stay in the Diamondback system. So we did get some good news for the Diamondbacks in the winter meetings, Derek. None of those guys were taken, and none of them are moving on to other organizations.
We gotta win. Some win. We won something. Well, that's good because Diamondbacks need a lot still. And I mean, again, it's kind of weird to sit and wait. It's like me waiting to hear from you. I don't know what's going on in Dallas. I have to sit here planning the show, wondering what is Jesse talking to Mike Hazen about? What is Tori eating for breakfast? Did he put his Christmas lights up yet? Right. So there's a lot of questions about what's going to happen with the Diamondbacks. Rule 5 draft, like you said, we knew that they weren't going to really add anybody, but it was more of a question of waiting to see if somebody was going to be taken. A couple of guys seemed likely, like you said, but they didn't. Meanwhile, the Diamondbacks need to figure out what they're going to do at first base. Still need to figure out a reliever, but that's not it, Jesse. They also need to still add like a backup, that infielder that can play some shortstop, that can help this team out. So there's a couple of roles, a couple of guys they lost, like Kevin Newman and a couple of other, you know, key players. It's like those are also just as critical to figure out, you know, a player to come in. Kevin Newman was a guy that we didn't really know a ton about last offseason. We didn't know how he was going to factor in, and he had himself quite the season for the Diamondbacks in 2024. He was a big part of this team. They leaned on him heavily at times because of the injuries and just because of the way that that season went for them. So they were very lucky to have him perform the way he did, but they still need to find a new Kevin Newman.
They do, yeah. And Mike Hazen was asked about that today. Are you likely to try to fill that sort of gap that exists right now on the 40-man roster? I guess you could make a case that like on the active roster, they could be okay if you know, like Tim Tawa and Blaze Alexander are on your opening day roster, then maybe you have enough coverage up the middle. Blaze Alexander probably doing most of the heavy lifting there, but yeah, the D-backs need some depth in this regard. You can't go into a season with as little shortstop depth in particular on the 40-man as they have right now. Hazen was asked about this. He said that he would lean more toward external than internal when it comes to who would fill this gap on the 40-man roster. I think there's a pretty decent chance that the Diamondbacks try to bring in a Kevin Newman type, someone, as you said, who can fill a role that was really very crucial for this team in 2024.
Especially after the Philly Fanatics slid into Ketel Marte. I'm never letting that joke die, Jesse. I refuse to ever let that joke die. Well, we have to find out why some sort of state representative wants to, in my opinion, throw Alec Thomas in prison for planting a flag at a baseball stadium or some sort of sports stadium. And we're going to talk about that on the other side of this break. You guys don't go anywhere. Of course, I know so many of you want to go out and check out some of these critical games. There's so much sports going on right now, including those bowl games here in the Valley, Suns games, Cardinals games, and more. You can get your tickets right now, last minute. You can save up to 60% off by buying tickets last minute for sports, concerts, and comedy shows and more over at Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. It filters out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through every ticket that's available. Game Time Picks has your back. They also have zone deals. They have all-in toggling all-in pricing, which will allow you to see what all the fees are going to be, so there's no surprises when you get to checkout. And they also have the lowest price guarantee, where Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Kevin, what time is it?
Game time, Derek.
It's game time. It is game time. And speaking of Game Time, you can get tickets at Game Time. Maybe if you want to get them last minute, you can get them right now for the Rate Bowl, because it's going to be happening at our home right here at Chase Field. Downtown Phoenix will be hopping for the holidays, and you can get ready to huddle up with your significant others, your friends, your families at Chase Field for college football postseason action, as the Rate Bowl will kick off on December 26th at 3:30 p.m. If you got family in town, of course, it's a great place to bring them. If you're looking for a little holiday vacation fun, come check out football at a baseball park. It's a great time. Even if you don't care about the teams being involved, it's just amazing to go see football played at Chase Field. It's a great atmosphere. And of course, it's the only bowl game featuring a matchup between Big 10 and Big 12 teams, two of the toughest football conferences in the country. By the way, our guys at ASU won the Big 12, just in case you forgot that. Game tickets, premium experiences, and reserve parking are all available. Get yours now at ratebowl.com.
And before we move back to the Jesse man, let's encourage people to pop out to our chicken and pickle.
Oh, sir, you are not wrong. Absolutely.
To see one Derek Montilla ripping it up.
Yeah, we need to be out there. I don't know if I'm going to rip it up, considering it starts at 8:30 a.m. and I don't know about my level of athletic participation at that early in the morning. But if you want to come see what I can do, come join us out there. We're gonna have a great time. Beers, food, pickleball. It's a great time. So make sure to sign up right now over at gophnx.com/events. We're gonna have a blast. And if you've never been out to Chicken and Pickle, even I'll tell you this, even if you don't come out for the tournament or sign up to play, make sure to come out anyway. We're gonna have a fun time. It'll be great to see so many of our diehards and listeners out there for sure. I will tell you this though. I saw this. Speaking of collegiate sports, speaking of bowl games, speaking of all this stuff, all this fun we're supposed to be having in athletics, but a state representative, Jesse, he wants to take the fun out of it because, as many of you know, a fight broke out, a pretty large fight between Ohio State and Michigan during their game when Michigan won, and a player from the Michigan Wolverines planted the Michigan flag at the center of the Ohio State stadium, causing quite the ruckus, if you will. We laughed about this quite a bit, considering we remember a time when one Alec Thomas did a very similar action in Philadelphia, an action which we very much approve of, applaud, and have watched countless number of times, to be honest. Sometimes when I'm just sad, Jesse, I just watch that clip. Sometimes when I'm happy, honestly, I watch that clip. I can watch that clip anytime, right? But a state representative wants to take that away from us, Jesse. State Representative Josh Williams from the Sylvania Township there in the state of Ohio introduced the OHIO Sportsmanship Act on Tuesday. The act would make it a felony offense to plant a flag in the center of Ohio Stadium after that fight that ensued between those two teams. A felony. Alec Thomas would be in jail, Jesse, right now as we speak for planting that flag in Philadelphia if Pennsylvania adopted a similar law. What are we doing here?
So just so I'm clear, this is the equivalent of like Alec Thomas planting the flag as he did after the NLCS, and then a fight just breaking out, like Phillies players just run out there and like punches are being
Which, by the
thrown
way, kudos to Phillies players for not running out of their dugout and tackling Alec Thomas. They lost.
I'm pretty sure that the Phillies players were like gone at that point. Like, as someone who was on the ground, Alec Thomas, it's not as if the Diamondbacks, won the pennant and Alec Thomas, like, he runs in, like, gives Geraldo Perdomo a hug, and then like grabs the flag right away and plants it at home plate. Yeah, like that's not what happened. I think they were probably celebrating for maybe half an hour before there was any flag being planted. So I guess a slightly different situation there. However, if Phillies players had still been out there, I like to believe that they would have the maturity to overlook that and not have a dangerous fight break out. And I don't know much about this law that you're describing, but it sounds very unnecessary, Derek. I think we can all just be adults and not like try to kill each other when planting flags in other people's stadiums.
First of all, I mean, we had one of the most egregious celebration acts ever where they jumped in our pool and then later openly talked about peeing in said pool while they were in there, right? Like, I get it. It's not cool when an opposing team comes and celebrates on your field. That's why you should absorb it. Well, that's probably a bad term for the peeing in the pool thing. But what you should do is you should let it make you angry. You should let it make you, as a player, decide that you're never going to let that happen again and motivate you to crush that team the next time that happens. I do believe the Diamondbacks did, in fact, get their revenge on the Dodgers in the playoffs after that thing occurred. It took a while for it to happen, but still, they eventually got some little bit of revenge on that team, right? So it's like, this is soft. This is the softest thing I've ever heard in sports. I understand a fight broke out, and maybe fights breaking out aren't great. Like I'm not a fan of that. I think it's one of the silliest things ever, and I'm sure if there was anybody that would back us up on that, it's our co-host Archie Bradley, who, by the way, misses you very much, Jesse, and won't do this show without you. So we got to get you back here in Phoenix so that Archie will return. But again, it's absolutely asinine to think that you're going to blame the act of planting the flag and make it felonious, a felony to plant a flag. We're not talking about a misdemeanor or finable offense. We're talking about a state lawmaker wanting to make it so that you could be arrested and thrown in jail for doing so. And that's the part that it's like, oh, here we go with the ridiculous, unbelievable laws that people are trying to make.
You know what's crazy, Derek, is that if you're the lawmaker, you didn't go straight to the coaches and say, you know what, we need to make sure these coaches are teaching their players, like, hey, after the game, like if you get in some sort of scuffle, like you're out, like you're done, right? No, we need to jail these guys.
I mean,
lock them up.
Wouldn't you go to the NCAA and have them change their rules so that these players could be potentially, like, I don't know, suspended? Like, okay, you go and celebrate like that, you're missing time for the next game or next season
you get suspended
or whatever.
for the first half of the next game if you get ejected for targeting.
Right, exactly.
But if you get in a fight where a cop sprays mace in your face, if you're playing for Michigan, it's like, all right.
I mean, I think that this is ridiculous. And I'm just like, again, I know this isn't necessarily our sport, but I do feel like this is adjacent to all sports. I think that, again, the act of planting the flag could be anything, Jesse. I could go steal their mascot's head, that big old Buckeye, and parade it around like Eduardo Escobar did with Baxter's head. Remember that? That happened. Go parade it around. Like, then you're going to want to beat that player up for doing that, right? An act of disrespect is an act of disrespect, but it doesn't mean that act of disrespect is always in the form of planting a flag. So this is ridiculous. It's childish. And to be frank, it's an abuse of power by lawmakers who should have much better things to be doing with their time than worrying about introducing legislature to make people felons for planting a flag after winning a football game.
Just so I'm clear, Derek, you were pro Dodgers players jumping in the swimming pool. Like you were chill with that.
No. See, here's the thing. I'm not pro that, but it's like that happened. The Dodgers won the division at your stadium, and they celebrated on your field. And again, that act of disrespect could take form of a different way. It's an act of disrespect. It's bad. It sucks when it happens to you and your team experiences it, but it doesn't mean that I think the Dodgers should be thrown in jail for that. I think they should be thrown in jail for their betting stuff. That's different. But that's mostly Shohei Ohtani. But I think that they should.
Right.
Like the Diamondbacks made measures to make sure that doesn't happen again. So do that. Send out police officers on horses right after the Michigan-Ohio State game ends and make sure no players plant the flag. Do something like the Diamondbacks did where they protected the pool and had security all around it. I don't know. Be better. Come up with something more creative. Right. But wasting people's time with legislature like this is just absolutely ridiculous. And I do think peeing in the pool should be a felony. That part I agree with. Yeah, that should be a felony.
I'm just trying to imagine like them trying to round up enough cops to protect the entirety of the playing surface from having any flags planted. Like the moment that these cops see anyone with a flag, like they're even just holding
riding
the flag.
Horses
it's
out there. Get them going in like some sort of
just
a circle around the middle logo just to protect it, Jesse. I don't know. Figure it out. I'm just saying, like, again, it's not something that police should even be involved with. It's something that NCAA, it's their sport. It's players within their game. It's a simple thing. You go to, like he said, you go to the coaches. The coaches, the league, the coaches, you have them tell the players, if you do that thing, it's going to be bad. And you're going to, you're not going to like the result of it. But I don't think getting police involved to the point that they need to be arresting and charging someone with a felony is it. That's the part that makes me feel like I live in insane times that I can't even comprehend what's going on anymore. That's crazy to me, but it's
I almost feel like it would function. I almost feel like it would function as a dare, right? Like if you try to make something like this illegal, then I don't know, like sometimes college kids don't necessarily have, they're not always the most mature group of people. Like
trust me, I'm a parent of a 13-year-old, Jesse. I know not to try to enforce rules. I get it. It's that you very much force them the opposite direction.
It would quickly turn into like, dude, did you see Derek Montilla last week for UNLV? He's suspended for 4 games, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I feel like they would try to find a loophole, right? Like they would be like, all right, we're going to plant something, but we're going to make it so it doesn't legally fit the definition of a flag, right? Like people get very creative.
Wait, does the ASU trident count as a flag?
Yeah, the trident isn't flag, it's a trident. And that's not a
flag. I mean, there's a lot of gray area there, right?
And if you plant it on a conference logo, does that count as the logo?
Here's the thing.
Like, does it have to be the central logo?
Everybody thinks I'm the troublemaker, but listen to young Jesse Friedman over here getting around the rules and finding a way to get around it. But of course, we need you to come home so Archie will come onto the show, but I'm also tired of doing it by myself. I mean, I know you're here, but it's like I'm talking to nobody. So come back here. We hope you guys have enjoyed. Kevin's devastated that I just acted like he wasn't an existing person. But
Derek is like,
all of us
I'm
living
so
people
sad.
that I love and appreciate their time and their efforts very much. I'm a Cap_K man with a K. large, intimate Kevin Thomas. He's going to come before Jesse today. He is at Kevo Posts. Jesse is at Jesse and Friedman. Of course, our show is at PHNX_Dbacks, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We thank you guys so much for stopping by. We will see you tomorrow. Well, hopefully some Diamondbacks news happening. And until then, we hope you guys have a wonderful evening. We appreciate you stopping by. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's so much more fun when, you know, the Diamondbacks get anybody at all.
We all silly like the mayor.